Welcome back to Grofus Does Britannia. Grofus here. Hail and well met, travelers, for those of you who are new to the channel. Pull up a chair and listen. Today we have the tale of the rise and fall of the Avengers of Justice Guild, otherwise known as AoJ. It was 2012, and I had always played Ultima Online on the Second Age server in Hermit mode, alongside my two children, Rockle and Escalating, whom were very different from each other in most aspects. Escalating was very young and liked to play around with home deco, hunting animals, collecting wool for his dad. I would do many treasure maps with Rockle, and we would also have our own little 1v1 tournaments with all of our characters to practice a little bit of PvP. Times were good, and UO was fun. When I was not in game much due to IRL restraints, Rockle started to meet some new people at banks and PvP matches, most of which included the USA Elite, some of which were part of the bad crowd like Vega and crew. Rockle learned the ways of griefing and backstabbing comrades from these guys, as he was witness to it and even victim of it several times. I think it was intriguing to him because he was never the same after. These griefers even found out where little Skelpine's house was, who I think was like 6 or 7 at the time. Snuck in, waited for him to log out. Skelpine was too young to follow proper house security etiquettes of running detect hidden each time he went into his house. Vega and Happy Gilmore dry looted the house, and then to add insult to injury, they redecorated the entire home, putting traps on everything. The next day when I was at work, Skelepine logged on and saw his house all redecorated and lovely looking, assuming this was a surprise for me, his dad, for such hard work collecting over 20,000 wool, which was gone from the house. He went to open the containers to see what prizes they might hold, only to find they would kill him with explosion traps. He would seek resurrection from the local healer and try the next box. He died over a dozen times that day. When I returned home from work, I found my youngest kid in tears, wondering why his dad would do this to him. Being so young and innocent, he had no idea such griefers existed, or could perform such heinous acts. Things went on like this for a while. I think it was 2014 or 2015, I thought it would be a good idea to make a guild so that all of me and my son's characters could have titles by their name, because what's UO without a good title? One day Skelepine was out hunting something on Akala Island, and he ran into another player by the name of Scribbles. Grofus had warned Skelepine not to trust other players after what had happened to his house and what was continuing to happen to his brother, but this player seemed different. Every day after school he'd meet up with this person and they would go on hunting adventures together. He then asked his dad if Scribbles could join the guild. Reluctantly, I agreed, because he knew they had become friends. A few days later, another person asked to be let into the guild that went by the name of Daz Dillinger. AoJ was always intended to be just a guild for titles and green health bars with only 3 members, not to be an actual guild with a purpose. But as fate would have it, the guild was forming nonetheless. This gave a sense of hope from within. Maybe there were good players left in Britannia. Maybe there are enough good players to protect each other from the griefers and the bad guys. And so I was motivated to put out the word on the forums. AoJ recruiting new players. Must be honest, trustworthy. Must be willing to defend each other at all costs. And help the unfortunate or helpless players along the way. For justice. For honor. For Britannia. We set out to be the good guy guild, to encourage the player population to grow and to destroy those who would try to run players off of the server. We picked up Akara the Shield Maiden from Finland, Werther the Kind from Sweden, Serrano the Ever Humble, Dr. Double D's from Australia, Joshimitsu from Belgium, Glass, Carnage, Shadow Jester, otherwise known as Gro Jr., Stellar Wind, Festus, Trollocs, and many, many more. The ranks of the guild swelled, and we had dueling nights, dungeon crawls, team-app hunting parties, etc. With the great Boomland Jenkins at the helm of the server, there was always much activity going on, and it was a blast. We would fight off the griefers and PKers sometimes. Most of the time, they would slay us. It was a little bit of back and forth, but we usually lost more than we won. Rockall was kind of a wild card during the era, and he would kind of bounce around from guild to guild, in and out of drama and discord. This brought me a lot of pain, but I was able to manage the situation okay, and usually steer him back in the right direction. So remember poor Skelepine, whose house got looted and griefed? Well, I eventually got the ultimate payback. In downtimes, I would join up with Vega's IDOC crew as a sorter helper. I would be in charge of sorting the drop houses from IDOCs and was able to keep 10% for myself as a fee. I did this for quite a while, gaining trust and balance running the guild and trying to keep guildies safe while also working with the most vile person on the server at the time. Eventually, I was trusted to sort out the main patios and one of his main keeps during a USA trash event. The trash event was one where you could throw away items and it would give you ticket value points for them. The tickets could be transferred to another player or saved up to buy super nice items like furniture dye tubs or neon hair dyes. Knowing this was the best time to strike, I trash barreled all of Vega's best stuff and transferred all the ticket points to Skelepine so he could pick whatever prize he wanted. This was the ultimate payback and moment I had been working towards this whole time, doing IDOCs with these buttholes. As far as Gilmore goes, I got revenge on him too. There was a quest where players had to turn in weapons of various types like halberds, broadswords, katanas, Viking swords, you name it. You would double click the quest scroll and then click to add the items into the scroll and turn it in. There was a problem with the quest though. It didn't have, something was wrong with the range, and you could go up to a patio, telekinesis, open one of the boxes, and you could just vacuum weapons right out of them. Happy stored all of his magic weapons, or a lot of his magic hallies on a chest wall on his patio protected by a table wall and locked doors. All those magic weapons got sucked into the quest scrolls and turned in, therefore completing my revenge. Of course, this came at a price. AoJ now had a huge target on their back, and there was a huge community uproar from all the bad guys or PvPers and griefers. Discord became a super toxic place to be. So the target on our back was bigger than ever from Vega's crew. There was a new gangbang guild on the scene led by Vinterex, and No Fear Guild was present with Santorum Saber, among others. So we had heat coming from multiple directions, and these organizations also started putting plants into our guild, into our Discord, and things were bad. About this time, I ran into a tradesman named Yenzer. This guy had a little small house in the middle of nowhere. He was trying to sell cut bandages and various other items for new players, and he was just getting a start on the server. It seemed pretty nice. Our guild had a L-shaped vendor mall at U Moon Gate, and so I offered Yenzer a seat in the guild and a spot in the house, as I always has a soft spot for new players and crafter types. The war was still raging against the griefers though, and they had even made a fake AoJ guild, had their own advertisements for recruitment, and would run people off the server who tried to join. They would camp the vendor mall hidden, wait for a customer to come by and buy something, and then they would immediately jump out and sink dump on them using character names that were in AoJ. So the customers thought that AoJ were doing that on purpose and killing them, although it was the people imitating to be us. So I couldn't protect the guild against so many angles, and started losing people. People in the guild I had known for years were quitting the server, leaving Discord, going different places. The final straw was Yenzer couldn't go anywhere without being killed or griefed. Couldn't even go into any of the houses without a griefer camping. They used to trap our doors, and somehow they would use some type of communication where whatever house he would go to, they would know where he was and show up before he could even enter inside the house. So they couldn't do anything. And he was a crafter. He never hurt anybody. So I was fed up, and I had been invited to try out a Lost Land server from ABiz. So I took him up on that offer, threw down a patio on that server. And it had the same rule set as EOSA, but with small quality of life adjustments. So it was real familiar play style. I made an announcement to the guild that I was going to take a step back, let things settle down for a month or so, and just solo play on this other server for a bit. And so after a couple of days, most of core AoJ were on the server, and we threw down a stone, and AoJ was born on Lost Lands. I think it was in 2018. I had no initial intention of anyone coming to USA or to Lost Lands because USA was our home, but I couldn't protect them anymore there, and they wanted a fresh start. Needless to say, we're having a blast with all the new PVM and lack of griefing going on. We met some other really nice players as well. They ended up joining our guild. Bushwick Bill, Sage Humboldt, Beavis, Link, Freak Show, Sugar, and even Zell before he was GM on Lost Lands. Second Age was on low population, and many of the griefers started coming over to Lost Lands to attempt to continue their griefing ways. But this time it was different. We said, hell no, not again. Bring it. I added to our mission statement and realigned our goals that we would grief the griefers. Anyone griefing AoJ members or new players would be griefed to no end, including all their characters. Red, blue, gray, orange, it didn't matter. We built up a nice city just outside Brit, and we're fighting the good fight. But we had so many people in the guild that not everybody could get along all the time. Nana, who was a lumberjack that came over with us from Second Age and one of Yinzer's best friends, became suspicious of a fellow guildie Link for following him around and stalking him while he was hunting. I found this absurd and ridiculous and tried to mediate where I could, but it escalated pretty quickly until an ultimatum was made from Nana. He said either Link goes or he will. So Nana ended up leaving the guild and took Yinzer with him. They ended up making an alliance with the NF guild led by Santorum, and their agreement was Nana would stock the griefers up with riches and treasures like they'd never seen before, because those dudes never farmed. They just did PvP and griefing in exchange for protection and to war with AoJ. And that's when MOA was born. Masters of the Apocalypse is what they were called. And with Nana at the helm, his true colors showed, and he was quite the crafty adversary. The silver-tongued devil was able to recruit the worst griefers across both servers to fight and attempt to destroy AoJ. Among their ranks were Santorum, Yinzer, Saber, Cannabis Sativa, Art, Mad Max, who was also with AoJ. He had characters in both guilds secretly. Sundance Kid, ABiz joined those guys for whatever reason. Godzilla, Ferus, Wildchild, Idea, Sir Charles, Zawuko, several others that I'm probably forgetting. They would make fake discords, fake characters to join AoJ for information, to see what we're doing, where we're at, and to gain trust, get a friend into our houses and loot them. It got so bad, I had to close our borders and stop all recruiting, cleansing out and purging any that were not 100% core AoJ. So we cleansed out the fake guys, but we also lost some good people that hadn't been there long, just to be on the safe side. So it was kind of hard to do that. But there was so much grieving back and forth, something had to be done. Skelepine had only played on Lost Lands for a few months, but he couldn't handle the griefing the MOA was dishing out. So he went mostly inactive, started playing World of Warcraft, and we hadn't seen a whole lot of him since. Every once in a while he'll peep in. But the server hit 200 population. I guess wars and vile behavior creates excitement and activity in Ultima Online. I had never considered that. I had always been anti-grief since 98 or since UO came out. But despite the PvP skill difference between AoJ and these other PvPers, we started winning the war. It wasn't the same as it was on Second Age. Rockle still had his challenges. He started going by Papy. He would continue to bounce between different guilds. He was with the Griefer Guild 408. He was with BD for a while, who sometimes allied with MOA. He was an NC for a little bit. But that's how all these guys got referred to and labeled as PKU, which we coined the term Player Killers United, because they would all join together to fight us. But as the war raged over a few years, AoJ gained ground, found ways to continue to win battles and win the war. If we couldn't straight up kill them in field, if we were outnumbered or just couldn't beat them, we'd feed them counts. We'd force feed them counts. And then when we did have the numbers, or we had people we could kill them, then we'd kill them, and they'd be in stat. And so they couldn't res, have to macro up for days to work off their counts. So that kind of keep them in check. It was especially effective if they resed in stat and then had to re-macro their characters over. But that came at a cost too. A lot of them got really upset with that tactic and ended up quitting. So our goal was never to make people quit, but that seems to happen when PKs can't win, or griefers can't win. Something about them not being able to handle a bunch of farmers doesn't sit well with them, I guess. But over the years, they dwindled down to just one or two log on here and there. But we had some massive battles, as you can see by some of the photos over the years when those wars lasted. And so Lost Lands went through a few GM changes. Our most recent GM Zell had worked on a lot of quality content that he released, and we're very appreciative of that, but there was nobody left to fight. Most of the bad guys rage quit, so the population was kind of low. We had heard of this other server called Siege Perilous, which was kind of a hard mode version of Ultima Online, but it was set in the Renaissance era. Renaissance I hadn't been too big of a fan of, but the hard mode was kind of intriguing, so we tried that out, and we're still playing there sometimes. But we compiled all of our funds and ended up accumulating quite a bit of wealth, and we were like one of the leading guilds as far as house accumulation went. Not everyone went to that server to test it out, though. Some of them stayed on Lost Lands or stayed inactive, but there was a lot of internal conflicts that were popping up. Papy, who'd been a part of the guild AoJ for a few years, kind of became an issue in Discord, and then started having some internal conflicts with other members as well. He's my oldest son, but he has opposite ideologies than what I have, and things that are UO related, and so he'd always kind of been in and out of drama where I had to intervene over the years on both servers, just from being young and not having any restraint. But I was tired of having to choose between guild and family in those situations, exhausted from making amends to people in the public and trying to uphold our original mission statement of protecting the weak, griefing the griefers, being the good guys in Ultima Online became impossible, because I wasn't 100% there, and that was going on. So I mean, loving my friends in AoJ and my son put me in a terrible spot. And in my old age, I just wanted to be a player again without having to mediate and fix everything. So as far as the scene on Lost Lands went, AoJ was the guild conglomerate. Everybody was either in AoJ, a few people weren't in AoJ, but we were like the guild, which can be a detriment too, because there should be a server filled with lots of smaller guilds, lots of different ideals and lots of different missions and plans and goals, and we didn't have that. It was either AoJ or not AoJ. So I saw this as a good opportunity, and it could be a positive thing, to dissolve AoJ on the server of Lost Lands, and that way hopefully people would group up, make smaller little cliques, and see what new excitement we could bring to the game. Also on Second Age, the stone was still there, but only myself and Werther are active on that server, and our time zones never match up. So I went ahead and dissolved that stone as well. On Siege, we're known as the Army of Justice. Kinslayer wanted to take over that stone because we're still farming and saving for a castle there, and so he took over that role, and that's pretty much it. In conclusion, AoJ was a great time, and the memories created will be forever with me, but it's just time for a change, a new chapter to open. Some new fresh guilds hopefully will pop up in Britannia, so we'll see what will come next. Ultima Online is a forever game, and I'll always be part of it in some way, but it was just time for AoJ to end. But we're all still here, we're all still playing. Until we meet again, friends, hope you all take care of yourself and fare thee well. Grofus signing out.